One night in August 1989, I was bicycling home from a volunteer position. Suddenly, I was hit from behind by a pickup truck traveling quite fast. I was slammed against the truck and flew through the air to land on the road. My lungs collapsed, most of my internal organs ruptured, and my pelvis and several ribs were broken. I was pretty close to death on the spot. Fortunately, a policeman was nearby and quickly called an ambulance. I have no memory of the previous events. All I know is that one moment I was riding my bike and the next I was in a place of complete darkness. I had no sense of direction and no perspective, but I had an awareness of my body that I still had. In the distance, I noticed a buzz and a tiny spot of light. The noise got louder and the light seemed to be coming toward me. As the object approached, I noticed that it was an outstanding demonic creature surrounded by flames, with huge eyes and teeth dancing towards me, screaming and growling. There was a threat in its gaze as it shattered its teeth and held out a long, drooling orange tongue toward me. I was tied to the place in the dark where I stood. There seemed to be nowhere to dodge the thing as the creature advanced at increasing speed, determined to seize me. I stood firm, closing my eyes, expecting to be swallowed up by flames. Instead, I felt the creature slowly passing painlessly through my body, and I focused an inner eye on it, only to discover that the creature laughed with joy as it melted through me. It broke out with a bang behind me, and suddenly, I flew forward very fast through the darkness. As I flew, two more demon creatures approached me, showing different colors, but still terrifying. Soon I came to the entrance of a tunnel that seemed to be built of gray, cloud-like material, stretching up far away. Then it branched out and I couldn't see where it was led. From the branch to the right, a yellow-white light emitted, which helped to gently illuminate the tunnel. I looked down at myself and noticed that my body was gone. It had been replaced by a blue and white shining kind of star that was pulsating. It was very liberating to no longer be tied to a heavy form. As I looked back into the tunnel, I noticed that there were doors on both sides. A few other stars wandered around in the tunnel. Two more blue stars appeared next to me and gently propelled me into the tunnel. I floated along the tunnel and noticed that some doors were open. Devils and animals tortured people in every possible way. As I approached the door, I felt a sucking force pulling me in like a whirlpool, and I felt myself flying over the miserable landscape. The smell in there was foul, and the heat was almost unbearable. Most of me wanted to leave, so I didn't have to face any difficulties of being in there, and my feeling was that anyone could leave if they wanted to. I felt that no one or nothing had imprisoned these people in there, except their belief in the agony that continued their suffering. I flew back to the main door, which was visible from everywhere in hell. I felt better after I left. The next door in the tunnel wasn't much better. As far as the eye could see, people walked with their heads bowed on a barren yellow ground, completely absorbed in their depressive, self-pitying thoughts, not knowing that someone else was around them. A great sense of loneliness and isolation exuded from the scene, and I was afraid to get too close to it. I flew further up the tunnel and looked into other doors. The next door that impressed me was a world of almost indescribable beauty. I looked out over a beautiful wooded garden with fountains and waterfalls glowing and sparkling with dazzling colors. A sense of peace and harmony emerged from this scene, and I walked towards the door with a great desire to enter. As I started walking through the opening, my nose bumped into what felt like plastic wrap. I pressed forward, but was gently rejected by a voice telling me that I don't have the information to enter this world. I remember being disappointed at the time. Then I turned my attention to the light shining around the fork to the right. I entered the light and was surrounded by a feeling of absolute joy. I told the light that I was here, and it answered me with a happy and blissful voice. I surrendered to that bliss and learned many things that make no sense when described, but for me are truths that resonate with me now and forever. I have learned that I am eternal, and although I can experience many forms of death, I will always know who I am. I have nothing to fear, only to experience more, and I am the one who ultimately decides what I experience. It sounds cheesy, but believe me, it feels really very good to know these things within yourself. Eventually, I became disillusioned with eternal bliss and decided to leave. I told the light that I was leaving, and it continued its completely joyous and blissful existence unaltered in any way by my presence. I floated back down the tunnel and was able to glance at the door that led into space. Rocks floated by, and planets and galaxies swirled in the distance. A rather contradictory sense of serenity and adventure surrounded me as I looked at the silent scene. Our galaxy is infinite and breathtakingly beautiful. The entrance to the tunnel was nearby, and I could hear voices telling me not to leave. It was my wife, Sarah. She thought I was leaving her. As I reached the entrance of the tunnel, a heavenly being appeared next to me and talked about the options I had. It told me if I walk through that door, I can't come back. My next conscious memory was lying in the hospital bed, with countless tubes stuck inside me and a breathing tube in my mouth. I was full of joy and humming with strength, even though I couldn't move any part of my body. I was also in pain, and this feeling quickly reoriented me to my physical self. I have faced many trials and challenges since my near-death experience. I faced a complete loss of identity, disability, poverty, loss of friends because they could not understand how my experience changed me, and deep pain. However, the knowledge of the eternity of my spirit and freedom from fear of death has created in me a foundation of peace that no temporary physical condition can shake. I have a great desire that everyone gets to experience the miracles I have without having to suffer the trauma I have suffered, because it would change the world for the better.